He pulls his winter cowboy hat snug over a Polartec cap, held with a drawcord. He came in the house stripping off his clothes, hung his overalls in the furnace room, set his boots to dry. Hot bath. Warm and dry, Charles talked of the axe in his right hand, the line drawn in new snow by the spade as he pushed it ahead of himself to search for the depression in the ice, the cow's water hole in the Campbell dugout. He spoke of ice over the hole being insulated by snow, how we went in right to his hip, the way his clothes froze as he walked. Then he spoke as if he were alone. If both legs, and here he paused. It's deep there, cold. If my concentration, any disorientation, to look up, my hat. In this dearth, some pack a 22 in their calving kit. What stubble there is up, open arms to catch any snowfall, hug its moisture into the earth, loosen the banker's grip. The music would be a cappella. When he didn't come in for lunch, the machinery running, she shut down the loader tractor, the supreme cutter mixer feeder, called the RCMP. Only his watch was recognized as the load of cut hay was run off the Supreme's conveyor onto sheets of silage plastic. She wants to believe he climbed up to check the feed, reached for a string he'd missed removing from a bale. In the days after, she railed to her friends about his belly, his center of gravity too high, berated herself for desserts, his lack of exercise. Caryatid and Telamon by day, one of the kids might want the farm. Her shoulders shake only in the night. Every day she engages the power takeoff, pushes that handle up with her left hand. The blades turn, revs the tractor to 2,000 RPM with her right. With the loader, drops bales into the Supreme. 2 loan payments made on it. In her kitchen, over coffee, she explored where and how to move those 2,700 pounds of cut hay, the need for a fire permit, how long she'd have to wait for a snowfall, how she'd gather his ashes. At night in bed, I hold my book, see my pulse in my wrist. Aaron pleaded for the black range cow's death, the unborn calf dead, lodged, the cow down. I gave the cow an analgesic, drove away to check on other calving cows. The next morning, the suture line smooth. The cow licked her foster calf as it suckled. I tell you this so you know I don't rush to deliver death. I won't tell you how I struck her to make her stand, lurch into the trailer. I've shown neighbors how to cradle their dog, raise the vein. I've held the foreleg, rested my left thumb along the side to steady the blood. I do this to spare them both the 22's clap, clap, the second to make certain. Lucy was held by my voice. With a grip on her elbow to occlude her blood, I rolled my hand laterally to make her vein accessible. I must have put the children to bed first for a nap. In the evening, on the phone, long distance, I explained all my reasoning to Charles. He has always said there was nothing else to do. In all these years, he has never said, I understand, I forgive you, let me hold you. Grief submerged with her brilliant feet, tucked up in flight. The hay cut, the Northern Shoveler lost her eggs to crows. Too late in the season for another clutch, she dabbled, swam in small circles, stirred the muddy slough bottom. Her wide-tipped bill, olive green speckled with black, long, not absurd, as she drew in water, combed for seeds, insects. The brown of her body was mottled, her head streaked with dusk, her eye just above the waterline. The mare flank-watched, shifted her weight. She had come into her milk, her teats beaded, outstretched, her foal poised, her neck, her limbs extended with each surge, his shoulders angled through her pelvis. I see why Charles thought I foaled like a good mare, swift, resilient. It seemed easy, this separation, her velvet calm. The colt's hocks still in her open canal, his body in the torn amnion. He swung his head, lifted himself sternal. She had the same momentum, turned to clear his muzzle. Then her forequarters rose almost straight up, like the shoveler from the water, from her nest, her legs briefly trailing. The mare, circumspect about her feet, turned to mother, whicker. The duck's quiet chukka chukka. Her young had been near ready to pip. The colt's fetlocks strong, the soft caps on his hooves feathered now, his suckling a prologue to her after pains, her cleaning. The placenta, now afterbirth, expelled. Hour afterwards, our days passing, gleaned as they are for joy, they are like the shoveler's bill, tending to orange along the cutting edges, recognizing it for her own. Tomorrow, we're freeze-branding numbers on their hips, back to the old way after cows lost double ear tags. Not that a brand would have helped us know who we found on the fleck place, the white curve of vertebrae and skull in the brome, the long bones, knuckles, and hooves dragged away. We'd run the herd through the chute, Ivermected, matched coat color, stub horns, and switch length. Some we knew, 715, the black whiteface with a cesarean scar, the triple nickel with an offset patch of red around her right eye, and 846, the tan I'd seen looking a little off, then a few hours later, near death. She'd lived, sloughed half her udder, toxic mastitis. We fostered her little heifer to the cow Farley led home, a half-mile north and a half east, his rope looped around her calf's heels, its head jostling along the ground, tongue out, its body pressing a path in the grass, in the dust, in the road. Farley made a jacket from its hide, slit it up each leg, underneath, and circled the neck. He peeled it off, pulled it over the foster baby's head, laced it under the belly, the back covered, loose flaps of hide over its legs and brisket, two tails swinging behind. The heft of my woollen turtleneck, the hand of goat down next to my skin. Driving west through Manitoba with the gnarl of oaks native in Erin's pasture on my mind. Whole fields of sunflowers, all their faces bowed to the east, and they stay bowed. They didn't lift with the rising sun, and the hallelujah I heard was somber. I imagine Erin's laugh when I tell her we both forgot my books, the ones she borrowed a year ago July, the time she asked why I stayed, and we talked of kids, of prairie, longing, and love. and what if. The palmate lupins I'd set out volunteered the following May. Their first 2 leaves closed fists. On hunch, I didn't root them out of the flower bed. The yard needing more than its annual trim, I mowed around gaillardia, buffalo beans, and coneflowers. Left the wild flax, too. Charles loves that morning blue with his coffee. He and I were quiet beside the acorn seedlings under the bur oak we'd planted. Then, as we considered where to move them, our sleeves brushed, one against the other, a compress of wild bergamot. Coming clean across Saskatchewan, I'm home to prune the raspberries. I work on my knees to cut out all the old wood, bare my hands for each cane's last berry of the season. On my tongue, they are the ending whole, half-whole descending tones, and with them, earthy, that fleeting lift of muscle, an eclipse of self by the wilderness of breath, hinged with the insistence of the blood, the soma. Last spring, with wire, I portioned twins inside a cow. Their hair and hooves sloughing, I pulled them out piece by stinking piece. Head, forelimb, hind leg with hemipelvis, until she was empty. The smell passed through my double-layered shoulder-length gloves. I gave her medication, and she staggered off as we gathered all the oddments. I watched her on the prairie, her back arched. She strained, whirled to sniff each scrap of afterbirth, anxious for a calf to lick into a certainty of life. The minor scale, the muscle riff.